In this video, I'm putting a 1997 Isuzu Mu Wizard through its paces. So this is the Isuzu Mu Wizard, and no, I'm not making it up. Look, it even says it on the side. Mu Wizard, mysterious utility. The Wizard is the 5-door version. It has been sold as many different vehicles all around the world. The Chevrolet Rodeo, the Vauxhall or Opel Frontera. So I'm very familiar with the design, even if I'm not familiar with this exact version. It's from 1997. It's a very late first generation, but it has got some improvements like coil spring rear suspension rather than the leaf springs of the original model. It was a model that was first seen in short wheelbase form, just the basic Mu, in 1989. And that version was also sold in some markets as the Honda Pilot. We got it as the Sport in the UK with a Vauxhall Cavalier 2-litre engine. And this is the longer version that came out a year later. And the list of engines is enormous. Sorry, we've got planes flying past because up here there's quite a major bushfire. So I won't be going any further along there. And they're trying to put it out, so there will be air traffic, but nonetheless we shall get back to the Wizard. This one has the 3.1 litre turbo diesel that we got in the UK in the Trooper, and in truth the underpinnings are pretty similar to a Trooper, I believe, although the body structure is common to the Isuzu Faster pickup, which was sold in the UK as the Vauxhall Brava. Like I say, the 1,000,001 spin-offs here, but this is what we have here. So the front styling, it's the same shape as the indicators on a Frontera, but I think the Frontera had slightly larger headlamps. We've got extra indicators and side lights in the bumper as well, because the Japanese really do like lots of indicators. We seem to have a somewhat truncated rhubar arrangement on the front, but in the 90s it was quite common to have them more for aesthetics than anything else. Raised air intake on this one, so great for wading. Maybe we should drive it into the sea, maybe we shouldn't. And if we move our way around the back, you can take in the long wheelbase of this model. We've got a split tailgate going on and a bit more bling than we had in the UK. One of the issues we had in the UK was light regulations meant that having your lights in this arrangement wasn't allowed, because as we shall see, if we open the tailgate, okay, we've got to press a button or pull a lever to do that apparently. Is there a lever down here? And that's fuel flap. Interesting. Tailgate opener. That would sound like a good noise. Now we can lift that piece, but then we have to open this piece like so, and when it's open it's now completely blocked the rear lights on this side because of the spare wheel in the door itself. And in the UK that meant we had to have little repeater lights down here in the rear bumper. We wouldn't have had quite so much chrome, but while we're here we'll take in the enormous boot arrangement. Plenty of space there, rear seat 60/40 split, toolbox, an essential thing to have if you're heading off into the bush. And we'll also note that we actually have the spare wheel is mounted on the tailgate. It wasn't initially. There was some sort of complicated arrangement where that was on a separate bar, so you had to get the separate bar out of the way, then you could open the tailgate, which was a 2-piece affair. Fussy and a bit of a pain in the arse, to be honest. Never pull on the corner of a glass tailgate. Oh gosh, good grief. Some serious bonnet struts going on there, gas struts rather, not bonnet, it's a tailgate. No rear wiper, which I find a bit alarming. UK models had a wiper that parked on the tailgate, so you could open the upper half, and so it'd park sort of along here. So that's a curious feature, but one which is very much of this type. I think we should have a look at the bonnet, but before we do that, let's have a nose underneath. There's the big beefy coil springs, good old ladder frame chassis, big beefy solid rear axle, independent front suspension by coil spring, Let's open the bonnet. Just notice the choke control there, so that, you know, for cold starts you can tweak things. And under the bonnet, there we go. Can't see a lot because it's buried by intercooler, but it is a 3.1 litre turbo diesel engine producing an amount of power. I don't know how much power. I probably should have looked that up and done my research. But needless to say, it's no road burner. We didn't get the 3.1 in the UK. That's the biggest engine they offered, I think, other than the 3.2 litre V6, which was specable if you really like visiting petrol stations. We maxed out at 2.8, and when the second generation came along, Vauxhall fitted its own 2.2 litre turbo diesel engine, quite a nice one. I've driven the very last Frontera ever built, because Fronteras were assembled in Luton, whereas the Isuzus were made somewhere in Japan, I should think. Right, climb aboard and we'll take in the plasticky grandeur of the interior. The early Fronteras had sort of press buttons for controlling the wipers and lights and things. That seems to have disappeared by the time this one came along. So we're on conventional stalks, indicators right, naturally. We've got a button over here for fog lights and the tailgate opener, the choke control, wipers, pull for screen wash. Oh, pull towards, duh. Look, it's early in the morning, leave me alone. Oh, we've got a mysterious button. I don't know what the mysterious button does, but it is a mysterious utility we need to know. Heated rear window, hazard warning lights. And so we've got a fairly comprehensive display here, 239,000 kilometres, an engine that redlines at about 4,200 revs, but we've got volts, water temp, oil pressure and fuel level. We've got air conditioning, which is full on climate control. So you just set your temperature and it keeps you nice and cool, and that works as well. Down here, we've got the automatic gear selector, which is a proper clunky affair. It won't deselect while the engine's off. And I like the boost gauge cable. Oh no, I've broken it. Cable tied to the selector, so that is, we're in 2 high. This is your cruising ratio, going to 4 high for 4-wheel drive or 4 low for extra crawling about the place at slow speeds. We've got norm or power modes on the transmission. I imagine power just makes more noise. And buttons here, separate button for the heated windows. We've got power folding as well, but not with the ignition off apparently, and adjustment for the mirrors there. We have a little cubby there, we have a bigger cubby there, we have a CB radio, that's a big 10.4, map reading lights. That's quite fancy, but really quite a nice driving position. These seats are quite comfortable, lots of lateral support going on, so it'd be good if you're bouncing around in rocks. We've got a slightly grubby towel. I probably should have moved that, but I didn't. So sorry, Wayne. I'm showing off your grubby towel. Electric windows, front and rear. And I don't think we've actually got... Oh, yes, we have. Yeah, the driver's got all the controls for all of the windows. Speaking of which, I'm going to drop a window, I think, because it's feeling a bit toasty hot in here. And we can listen, enjoy. That's a big old window. Let's drop that one as well. I don't usually do electric window tests. That's something novel. Oh, what have I upset? That's interesting. I've taken the key out and now it's complaining at me. Weird. I shut it up. That's all a bit peculiar. I don't know why it did that. Let's go and jump in the back. Oh, don't you hate Sony head units with that awful noise? Right. Ooh. Here we go then. Yeah, you sit quite low down in the back. Let's try and sit properly. Oh, got a buckle up my bottom. Yeah, that's the seat isn't quite raked enough for me. I'm not getting enough leg support. I can't fit my jandals under the seat very easily in front of me, but there is plenty of knee room. and a good amount of headroom as well. Oh, and the speakers are roof mounted. That's quite a novelty. Always a problem on an estate. Where do you put the speakers? That was Isuzu's solution. So right behind the head for maximum noise. But yeah, it's okay back here. It feels a little dark because there's fairly heavy tint on these rear windows. But yeah, it's definitely worse places to sit. Right. Transmission isn't filling, battery rather, isn't filling me with huge confidence. It sounds a little sluggish. Do the windows up, now we've got the engine running for maximum air con. And we'll start by having a bit of a bounce around in something approaching off-road, I think. But yeah, it's a very agricultural engine. Really does sound like a proper old school diesel. Throttle response is not what you'd call amazing, but with the coil springs it's actually reasonably comfortable. Right, already getting stuck, so we'll go 4 high, so 4-wheel drive. And there we go, we're away. Now there's no centre diff, so because we're getting back onto terra firma again, I will drop back into 2 high. I think that's in. Yep, there we go. Might just need to release the front hubs. There might be auto locking, so just in case, we shall come to a stop, hit reverse, and that should have unlocked the front hubs if they're indeed of the auto locking type. So there we go, we've done our off-roading, we shall continue the road test. It's a very lazy automatic transmission. It's a General Motors gearbox. It seems very well suited to this torquey lugger of an engine. So we're now on a gravel road. Oh gosh, that's a big camper, big old Mitsubishi. But it rides really quite well. As I suppose it should do with the independent front end, coil springs on the back. We're on gravel at the moment. The dashboard shakes and rattles a bit, but I don't think that's too much bother, to be honest. Now, diesel auto is something we didn't get in the UK, I think, until the 2.2, but feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. UK Fronteras had a range of diesel engines. They started with Vauxhall's own 2.3 turbo diesel, which is a bit of a slug. Then went up to a 2.8, which I think was the Isuzu 2.8. Then weirdly went to the Italian VM 4-headed monster, 2.5 litres for a short time. They were badged TDS, I believe. And then the first generation became the second generation in 1998, and that's when Vauxhall fitted its own 2.2 litre direct injection diesel engine, the DTI. And I'm trying to think when production ended. Was it 2003, 2004? Certainly the Vauxhall Frontera was the last car, if you can class this as a car, produced in Luton. But yeah, it's not exactly a road burner. My foot isn't flat to the floor, but I'm fast learning with this car, but flooring it just makes it noisy. It doesn't necessarily make it go any quicker. But it's fairly smooth, actually. Oh, let's give it a kick though. Yeah, you don't want to do that, really. I would not advise it. Let's see what the turning circle's like, because it should be pretty good. And I had an Isuzu Trooper first generation, and frankly, the best thing about it was the turning circle. That may have been the only good thing about it. Ah, there is a Holden pickup, and it's the same cab as this. So yeah, it's sold as Holdens as well. Oh yeah, we're boosting at 10 PSI. That's us up to 80 kilometers an hour. Pick a gear, stick with it. There we go, 100 kilometers an hour. Pretty relaxing, really. Torque converter's locked up, I think. Or maybe it hasn't, because that's 2,500 revs. I'm sure it was doing lower revs. Overdrive. So that's overdrive off, which I think stops it going into top gear. And that's with overdrive engaged. So yeah, 100 kilometers an hour is about 2,400 RPM. The suspension's relatively firm, so it has pretty decent on-road manners. You can corner fairly briskly. The steering is recirculating ball, I think. It's not what you'd call direct, and feedback is notably absent. But yeah, you can get a bit of a shift on in one of these. They never stop feeling like a big old agricultural, old school four-wheel drive though. For me, that's part of the pleasure. I like a 4x4 to feel like a 4x4. I don't like 4x4s to feel like overinflated cars. Yeah, I mean, as road manners go, this is actually a bit better than I expected. The mirrors are superb. They are absolutely enormous. I remember that when I drove the last Frontera. You almost don't need this one. So good are the outer mirrors. Demonstrate that folding now. Oh yeah, there we go. Now I've got better aerodynamics and can go 10 mile an hour faster. I know I'm tired, but I almost forgot the wiper test. Oh, look at that. That is a pleasing performance. Although, I can't help thinking that the windscreen wipers on this one might be the wrong way round. That one seems a bit too straight. That seems more like the passenger arm. But nonetheless, the performance is good. There is good overlap. There is no triangle of doom, no dribble. And it's quite a good wipe. So I'm going to vote that one A-OK. So that was the 1997 Isuzu Mu Wizard. Incidentally, they dropped the Mu for the 5-door after 1998, so this is almost the last of its kind. You may just be able to see some smoke in the background where New Zealand is slightly on fire, but it's nothing like Australia, so I'm not worried yet. But yeah, I really enjoyed that. I think that's very likeable. It's agricultural enough to actually be good as an off-roader, but it's not so agricultural you feel like you're driving around in a tractor. I think the Frontera was always somewhat underrated, to be honest, and that only confirms my views. So I shall say, thank you very much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in a future video. Farewell. Mu Wizard. One more thing, reverse does the beepy thing because Japanese, but I think it's the air compressor that makes a beautiful noise when you turn it off. It sounds like a jet turbine.